Thanks for that, Johnny. It's a bit too early for me to sit down and start working out stuff like that, I think. Now, Maddie, have you ever wondered about the power of influence? The influence people have over you and you have over people.
Oh, definitely at home. I'm always wondering about the influence people have over me.
Or would you like to learn about how to be more influential?
Absolutely, I'd like to have more control in the house.
All right, well, this lady, Anna Zammit, is the lady that you need to talk to.
Great.
She's in from Excel to talk about the power of influence. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
To start off with influence, tell me all about influence. What do you know about influence?
Well, influence is the ability to sway or persuade either somebody else or yourself to do something or to achieve something.
So it's a skill that we're using almost constantly, I imagine.
Absolutely. If you recall back even to yesterday, you think about how many times you've had to weave in and out of situations, decisions you've had to make, questions you've had to ask. You're influencing all the time.
People are influencing all the time, but do you find that people, the stronger people, use it more than what you would call the weaker person and dominate in a way by using this power too much?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that it doesn't depend on your personality as to whether you're dominant and whether you can persuade more. It's a skill that we learn. You watch a child. Have either of you got children?
Yes.
Yes. Toddlers, little ones are great to watch. I mean, can they influence? And
yes, they can. I can.
Yeah, and how do they do that? How are they taught that skill?
By being cute.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So they are able to influence, even though they've not really been taught, and they learn that skill, or we stop learning it.
So you've mentioned influence over ourselves. Is it possibly that we can be quite unskilled in influencing ourselves?
Absolutely. And I think the majority of people are quite unskilled at influencing themselves because we don't know how to do it. We've never really been taught the skill to be able to influence. We're always busy trying to influence others, but we don't think, or we don't leave a lot of time to think about how we can influence ourselves to achieve more and to be happier in life.
So to strive for more, is that what you mean? Give me an example of how you influence yourself on a particular issue.
Okay, it could be anything. It could be, how am I going to feel today? It just may be something as simple as when I get up in the morning, am I going to have a great day or am I going to have a lousy day? It's the influence of how you're going to feel and what sort of state you're going to be in for the rest of the day. That's a very, very simple instance of how we can influence ourselves from a career point of view or from a life point of view. Is that how do we influence to get more of what we want?
So do you think there's too many people out there that aren't aware of the powers of influence?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. So how can people change it then?
There's a lot of ways that you can change it. Firstly, understanding that you do have choice. A lot of us don't realise that we actually have choice and we can make choices as to what we want to do. You can learn these skills by reading, by going to classes or having someone coach you through that process as to how to work your own brain and how to influence yourself more. They're easy skills. In fact, I believe that, children should be taught these skills right through school.
Are there any quick tips? Like I imagine the process of improving your influencing skills over even just yourself is difficult, but is there, or maybe time consuming, is there a quick tip that we could share, 2 or 3 quick tips
Sure.
we could share right now that we can walk out of the studio
Yes,
into our first day and choose to have a different day?
Yeah, of course you can. The first thing you do is you change your state. So the way that you do that is that you think about the things that stop you from doing more of what you want to do. And generally speaking, the biggest thing that stops us is fear. It's the fear of, not taking that next step because of what may or may not happen. And that fear becomes so big for us that we stop and we don't do it. To break through that fear and to influence yourself, what's the worst possible thing that can happen for me if I break through this and just keep going forward?
So in that sense, are you applying a rational brain to an emotional feeling?
Correct.
Right. So by asking yourself challenging questions
Correct.
like, what is the pro, what is the con of this emotion I'm feeling. Is that
Yes,
that
and
correct?
I think for us as human beings, we don't ask ourselves enough questions. You know, we're so busy making movies and distorting, you know, our view of our world that we don't ask ourselves enough questions to really understand that at the end of the day, you know, what's the worst possible thing that can happen if I break through this and try something different?
And so you mentioned fear. Is there any other sort of emotions or blockages that we have that we could be using influence for? Other than fear?
We will have limiting beliefs. So you will have a belief system that will limit you. And to understand what those limiting beliefs are and to understand why they're there and to overcome them, that's a great influence over yourself.
It's overcoming them that's
But it's not that hard.
Can you give us perhaps an example of a limiting belief? It's an interesting concept, and I think it's hard to grasp.
Yes.
So I wonder if an example might help.
Yes, really common one perhaps is one of money. You know, where you have somebody that is limited by their success because of their limiting beliefs around money. Well, how much they're to have and how much they deserve, and what money, the sort of status perhaps that money gives people. That is could be a limiting belief, but limiting beliefs could be very wide and very varied, and it depends on the individual.
So with the limiting beliefs, is a tip similarly to ask questions of yourself like we did for our emotions of fear, or is there a different tip that you use on your limiting beliefs?
I think sometimes it's identifying the limiting beliefs, and very often we don't identify them. You know, I can tell you lots of stories of people that I've worked with that have had limiting beliefs that when they've discovered them, it was a real wow for them because they've not ever realised that they've been there.
And had the time to think about it before, but when they're more aware of it, have become more aware of it and have someone to guide them and to support them, becoming more aware about it, that's when it all happens. They just need that little step and a little nudge to help them.
Well, that's right, because I mean, if you're not aware of something, it's very difficult to change it. You know, awareness is a big thing. Once you become aware, then it's very easy for you to say, okay, well, this is what I've got to do to break through this.
So with some of these limiting beliefs or fears, we've got some bad habits, maybe chewing our fingernails,
Twirling our hair.
twirling our hair, smoking maybe might be a habit that we want to give up.
Yep.
Is there some of these tips that we can use to apply to influence ourselves, or me, for example, not eating chocolate every night, something like that I could use?
Well, it depends, you know, it depends on what chocolate gives you.
What does it give you, Matt?
Yeah, does it give you pleasure or does it give you pain, Matt?
It gives me pleasure because when I'm really tired, it makes me feel energetic, but that could be the sugar rush too, I suppose,
Well,
maybe.
but if it gives you pleasure, why would you want to change it?
Yeah, good point. I'm not giving up. I'm influencing myself to find another method. Okay.
So it's understanding, you know, what does something give you? I often have people in my office that say, I want to give up smoking. And my first question was always the same. Well, you know, what does smoking give you? Is it giving you pleasure or is it giving you pain? Because if it's giving you pleasure, there is no way you will give it up. It's unless it gives you pain that we want to move away from pain, you know, and we want to move closer and closer towards pleasure.
So I suppose with something like smoking, we need to flip our mindset away from thinking it's a pleasurable thing to maybe switching it to think about it as a painful thing.
Yes, and what will it give you to give up smoking? So what will it give you? How would your life be more pleasurable if you were to give up smoking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly save you a lot of money, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, very true. And fascinating information, Anna. Thank you very much for
You're
sharing
more
with
than
us.
welcome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have a big day on influencing myself and choosing different outcomes.
Well done.
So thank
Thanks
you,
a
Anna.
lot, Anna.
Thank you.
We're going to go to a quick ad break. We're going to come back with the Waffle On host from